Hi guys. Hope this sends some. Should we get some light on? It's a bit dark in here, isn't it? Dark. Is that better or not? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's too bright. Hi guys. How are you? It's Louis in the UK, and we're gonna talk a bit about Dr. Nick, Elvis's doctor, that is infamous doctor. I know many Elvis fans are upset with him. We're trying to get to the more of the truth with Dr. Nick. And then you have the two nurses. I've been trying to find some footage of them. So we've got Marianne Koch, and let's have a look. And then we've got, let's just quickly just say something about Marianne. So I hope you're well, guys. Hi, Stacey. We're going to talk about the nurses and Dr. Nick. Got a few little clips. I've been watching interviews of Marianne Koch, who it says here was Elvis Presley's nurse from 1975 to 1977. Marianne began taking care of Elvis in January in 1975, and he was a patient at Baptist Memorial Church in Memphis. She continued to take care of Elvis during his hospitalization and also during the nights at Graceland. And then the other nurse, because we're going to try and look at both of them. Let's just click on something here. I've been watching videos today on both of them, trying to get a feel for them both, and they both loved him dearly. They both became very, very close to them. I think they both did write books. So the other one, her real name is Letitia Henley Kirk, but she is known as, let's have a look if it gives her, let's see if we can find it. It might have it on the book. So the book is called Taking Care of Elvis. I just want to see if it, but they don't call her by that name. They call her something different. Let me just find it a minute. And I've also found some little clips of Dr. Nick saying stuff, which I think is quite important. So there's I did record a little clip of these nurses talking about Elvis. I also found an unusually rare clip, like a newspaper interview with Colonel Tom Parker, and I thought I might read that as well because it's unusual. It's a question and answer interview. I thought I'm going to read that to you guys. It just looks too interesting. So let me just, I want to get the actual nickname of the nurse. I'm going to play these Dr. Nick clips as well. So yeah, Tish Henley. So her real name, Tish Henley Clerk. I've seen interviews with each of them. I believe they live. Stacey, I spent a few hours watching different interviews of both of them, and I mean Tish Henley was with him from 1968. She was with him for 10 years. Marianne, not so much, but they both became very, very close to Elvis, very close. And it also, when I watched the interviews, I started realizing, my God, Elvis spent a lot more time in hospital than we realized. But not just that, he had a lot of care, didn't he? When he was at Graceland and maybe other homes as well, he had a lot of care going right back to 68. So it gives you an idea that he was unwell going way back to 68. And we've obviously, the last few days, we've been discussing Elvis's many problems, many illnesses, and it shows that if he needed care going right back to 1968, that he really wasn't a well man. And one of the things I found two extra words that have been used, cardiac arrhythmia and hypertension, as well as the genetic stuff like glaucoma, the fact he was using uppers, downers, sedatives, and then we've got the breathing difficulties with his lungs, the arthritis, the severe constipation, the swollen heart. Then we've got serious liver disease, gastrointestinal problems. You know, he was unwell, Elvis, but I think he was unwell further back than we thought. Yeah, I think I saw that interview. They were trying for too long, weren't they? They were trying for too long, which was pretty pointless because he'd been dead for hours. And so I'm going to play you these little interviews that I found with Dr. Nick. There's also one I found with one of the nurses. So let's just start with this one, and we'll just talk about them. Let me just get a bit closer to the camera. All right, let me just make sure I've gone back far enough that we haven't missed any. I am going to read out this Colonel Tom Parker interview to you guys as well, because I think you need to know this. So a couple of little things I took pictures of. It says here, Letitia became Elvis Presley's nurse in 1973, moved to Graceland, where she lived until 1983, 6 years after Presley's death, caring for his father and grandmother. But Elvis and I spent a lot of time together talking and walking around the estate and in the meditation garden. But actually, I actually think she originally met him in 1968. So I think, didn't she nurse his little finger? He broke his finger playing football. Elvis asked her to be his personal nurse in 1968, and she was until his death. She would remain Elvis's personal nurse. Letitia Henley, now Letitia Henley Kirk, says Elvis never made a big deal out of his birthday. And then we've got, according to this, how many times was he hospitalized? Elvis had 4 hospitalizations in the 4 years before his death for various medical problems, and the list of his diagnosis covers nearly every system in his body. And then it mentions megacolon, gastric ulcers. So we can add megacolon to our list, can't we? We've got a long list. On here it says his death could have been caused by the straining very hard to have a bowel movement. The maneuver put a great amount of pressure on his heart and aorta. So I'm just I've been just going through different bits. Now let's just listen to this a minute.
How was he during those last days? I
So,
know there's a lot.
A drug problem.
Hang on. Right.
Just the beginning. The spotlight that had focused on Elvis turned on him. Suspicions that as the superstar's doctor, he was negligent. The autopsy performed on Elvis Presley has never been publicly released by the Presley family. But Dr. Nikopoulos did see it during a later medical board hearing, and here reveals its contents.
There were 2 conclusions. One pathologist at the one hospital thought that his death was due to what he called polypharmacy, meaning poly meaning many, and pharmacy reflecting drugs, many drugs found.
The interaction of the drugs.
Well, either the interaction of the drugs or the quantity being too high. And the coroner, who also had the benefit of watching the autopsy and who had gotten all the toxicology reports and still felt that none of the drug levels were high enough to contribute to his death. And still the probability was that this was a cardiac problem rather than a drug problem.
Dr. Nikopoulos prescribed 3 of the 11 drugs found in Elvis Presley.
Okay, that's just one of the clips. So after watching a lot of interviews, oh, hi, Monica. Hello, I'm doing really well. Thanks for joining us. Are you in Tucson, Arizona? I'm in Southwest UK. I think we spoke before. And hi, Priscilla. So I know that a lot of us very quickly think that Dr. Nick was the bad guy. But I tell you now, I've watched a lot of interviews, including with his cousin Billy Smith and the nurses, and they actually say that he had a tough task and that he did his best. He actually did his best, and that he wasn't as bad as the. I'm just going to turn this off a minute. It looks a bit bright. Let me just turn the light on so it's a bit brighter in here. But they actually say that that he, of all the doctors that Elvis had, he was the one that tried the hardest to sort of help him so he could manage the pain, because the amount of discomfort he had and the pain he was in was excruciating. And he even tried to use placebos to try and reduce the amount of tablets, because his biggest battle was trying to stop Elvis from getting the pills from other places. This is what I'm learning here. And obviously they had become very close friends. But let's look at another clip.
Dr. Nicopolis prescribed 3 of the 11 drugs found in Elvis Presley's body at the time of his death, and he had a suggestion of where the others originated.
It's possible that the drugs that he had in the system could have come from a couple of people that were working with him at the time. And it's also possible that he may have medications that he had put back at some time or other.
It's been almost 6 years since Elvis Presley died. And
so let's go to the next one. I've got a few here. That's what I was going to show you guys.
Folks in downtown Tupelo were all shook up. Someone vandalized a popular mural.
Hang on, let me just. So a few of you have messaged me. Stacy was one. I better just do this now. A few of me have messaged me about this mural that was vandalized in Tupelo. Stacy was one, and the other one was Poussin, Lucette. So thanks to both of you, Stacy and Poussin. Lucette, who's in France, and Stacy, one of my members. So I quickly looked it up. And I did manage to find something. Right, let's...
Shook up. Someone vandalized a popular mural of the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. WTVA's Jake White spoke with the local artist who created that piece. Jake joins us live from downtown Tupelo.
Yeah, I'm here off of West Main Street. Take a look behind me here. You can actually see that the artist has begun repairs on his very famous mural that's here in downtown Tupelo. That mural was defaced Monday morning with yellow paint splattered all over. You can actually see there's some yellow paint still here on the ground by my feet. This is what the picture that you're seeing right now is what Morris McCain woke up to recently. Yellow paint splattered all over one of his famous Elvis Presley murals. This is in the Reed's Alley downtown. I spoke with the artist who says this is not the first time someone has defaced one of his murals. McCain believes the same man cut the head off of the same mural. At the time, it was a 3D model of the late singer and Tupelo native. McCain tells me this does not discourage him.
I'm going to repaint it. I'm going to repaint it. Actually, I got some other ideas for it too, so it's going to be a little bit, I think, better than what I put up there. So I had his face down to a T, which was the hardest thing to do. So, but yeah, I'm going to redo it. Yeah, I'm going to redo it again if somebody comes along. That's just because I'm that hard-headed.
Well, come on, it's probably kids, isn't it? It's probably kids. So I had another message not long ago from Lucette saying they've actually caught the person. Let me see if I can just see the message. Came in on my comments just not that long ago. You know, I always have trouble finding these comments, but let's have a look, see if it comes up. It was from Poussin. I'll just see if it's going to come up. No, it might not. No, but I have had a message from Lucette saying that they've caught the people. They've caught the people that did it. So, right. So let's go back to some of these, another couple of clips of Dr. Nick, and I found a very old interview of Dr. Nick. It lasted nearly an hour, and I don't know. He doesn't have the best body language, does he?
Dr. Nicopolis prescribed
I think I've already
3 of the
played
11
this, but...
drugs found in Elvis Presley's body at the time of his death, and he had a suggestion of where the others originated.
It's possible that the drugs that he had in the system could have come from a couple of people that were working with him at the time. And it's also possible that he may have medications that he had put back at some time or other.
It's been almost 6 years since Elvis Presley died. And
I've watched a lot of his interviews today and yesterday, and he does come across, he talks about how much he cared for Elvis, and Elvis was like his son, and he did everything he could for him. But I get a bad feeling, guys. I get a feeling of, you have to watch the interviews to understand where I'm coming from. It's just something that's very uneasy. And he's very open. Like, he gets asked a lot of questions. I'll show you a bit of the interview if I can find it. It's called
but as Dr. Nicopolis pointed,
it's called Elvis's Doctor Speaks Out. Let's just read. He may have been a good to Elvis, but I feel he was also easily brought along with Elvis not disclosing what he really was feeling. Dr. Nick had jewelry, house, cars bought for him. He definitely did. I'm sorry, but he was bought. I'm glad Dr. Nick got his license taken away, not just for over-prescribing Elvis, but other celebrities. I think, from what I've learned, he had a 3-month suspension for over-prescribing Elvis and others. And then years later, was it Jerry Lee Lewis? He was found to have over-subscribed Jerry Lee Lewis, but this time they didn't actually take away his license in 1993, I think. So there is an ongoing thing where he just kept getting in even more trouble. That's how I see it. It's kind of a conflict of interest with Elvis being a friend and a patient. Well, he didn't start as a friend. I think he started being his doctor because of Elvis's main doctor wasn't available. Elvis had some very bad saddle sores. I think some of the other guys did. And Dr. Nick stepped in to sort out these saddle sores. And I think it went from there. And that might have been how they met Marianne as well. It is like that, Nadia. It just, when you were watching the interviews, I don't know, there's something uneasy. And he had this nickname of Dr. Feelgood because he would give you what you wanted. He puts it down because he was trying to help these people with severe pain. But I don't know, guys. So Eileen, I agree about Dr. Nick. He's too laid back. He was like a lot of Elvis's so-called friends, easily bought and loved the limelight. I agree. He does seem to love the limelight. When I watch all these different interviews, he's quite flash. He seems to be really enjoying the attention, the fame that comes with the fact that he was Elvis's doctor. So I think we have to make up our own mind about the body language that is coming across using our own common sense, really. Stacey, I think that's true as well. So I'll just play you a bit of this interview I found. It's on someone's called Jay Gordon 1033. Jay Gordon. So JAYGORDON 1033. But it's quite a rare interview. It does last 40 minutes. So I'm only going to play a clip of it. But I learned a lot from that interview. I would say I got a real good feel for Dr. Nick from this interview. And I'm just going to play a clip. I don't even know what it's going to say.
It's out. The public may never know.
There's no experimental data to prove that any of those combinations are harmful. But I think it's still a possibility. There's just no way to really know.
In 1979, the events surrounding Elvis Presley's death were the subject of an ABC News report.
Tonight, Geraldo Rivera on the Elvis cover-up.
The report centered on Dr. Nicopolis.
Dr. Nick, as he was called at Graceland, had been a close friend and a member of Elvis's so-called Memphis Mafia since 1966.
To control his...
Let me just do you another bit.
Well, he and Linda have left with one of the policemen. I said, well, where'd they go? Oh, we don't know where he went. And he had gone to some other doctor.
So that says it all, doesn't it? So Elvis, you could not control Elvis. If he wanted these medications, he was going to get them from other doctors. So it rendered Dr. Nick quite helpless, I think. And then there's one interview I watched where he was having a form of acupuncture, but the doctor that was giving Elvis this so-called wonder drug that did actually make Elvis feel good was using proper syringes, and they were injecting proper drugs into his system. And Dr. Nick says he was very close to death. And if he hadn't have stepped in at that point, Elvis would have died. So, Tracy, Dr. Nick did not give Elvis the painkillers that he thought he needed. He would shop around for other doctors who would give him whatever he wanted. Yes, I think you're right, Tracy. You know, Elvis was his own worst enemy. So we have substance use disorder nurse. Hi, welcome to our. She says, Louis, I have been an addiction nurse for 36 years. Dr. Nick was wrong. He knew that he wrote, meaning the prescriptions, way too many prescriptions for Elvis. He was a doctor. I got addicted at one time as a nurse. Jean from CA. Hi, Jean. Welcome aboard. Come on. He did his job badly, didn't he? That's the truth of it. I've seen a lot of interviews from close friends and family of Elvis that defend Dr. Nick. We don't really know why. They feel that he did the best he could under the circumstances, especially, you know, as Jean says, if Elvis was going off doing things that Dr. Nick couldn't stop. I understand where they're coming from, but the truth is he did overprescribe. He did. And he uses the excuse of saying that his patients were in so much pain, he felt like he didn't have a choice. We have to make up our own minds about it, don't we? Unfortunately, being Elvis, everyone wanted to please him. They did. It's very sad. It's very sad. But you got to try and imagine being in his shoes. He's in a lot of pain. He's in serious discomfort. This constipation was severe. And when you're in pain, guys, I'm sure some of you out there have been in serious pain before. You'll do anything. It's a bit like having the worst ever toothache, isn't it? You know those toothaches you get that are just unbearable, literally unbearable, worse than you feel like death. You'll do anything to ease that pain. You'll take a load of painkillers, you'll rub everything into it. And Elvis had that kind of pain, you know, with his constipation and with his twisted colon and his glaucoma, you know, his serious eye pain. You're desperate. Elvis was desperate. This is what I say. He was desperate. So taking anything Geraldo Rivera says with a grain of salt, he did a piece on Elvis shortly after he died. Right, I haven't seen that. So we've got, I believe doctors should not get close to any patient. Yes, I agree, especially when there's money involved. It doesn't mix. Nicolette, hello, Nicolette. Welcome aboard. Yes, Elvis refused to take no for an answer, but there should have been a system so that doctors all could see what medications he was on. It was different times, though, wasn't it, Nicolette? You know, we're talking the early 70s here, aren't we? So the acupuncture quack started Elvis a serious problem with addiction, according to Dr. Nick. Yeah, I've seen the interview, and very dangerous, very dangerous. That Dr. Nick says that close to dying. Crazy. And Elvis just saw it as a miracle cure because it made him feel good, you know? And pain meds do make you feel good, don't they? So Dr. Nick set up medication protocol for Elvis with in his house. His nurse doing, out the meds. Yeah, he had assistants, didn't he? So Gerardo, didn't he open Al Capone's safe and there was nothing of value in there? I'm not sure what that is. Hi, Cheryl. Hope you're well. Nicola, no computers to access patients' files at the time. It was just a different times, wasn't it, guys? So, Philomena, how are you? Welcome aboard. Philomena and Stacy and Eileen, 3 of the members. These are my members, guys. Hi, members. Nice to see you on the live together. I'm glad I've caught you all. So, right. So I wanted to just look up the nurses. I'll just click on one and see which one comes up. So let's have a look. So we have Elvis's private nurse releases a book for Letita Henley Kirk. So let's go. She lived on the grounds of Graceland, Elvis's home, with her husband and 2 young daughters from 1972 until 1983, and often traveled with Elvis on tour. The book is a collection of short stories about her life around Elvis and his family, includes dozens of previously unpublished photos. He was not only my patient, but a good friend, says Kirk, who is 73. That's why I didn't want to write a book all these years. I felt like he wouldn't have written a book about me if I had been the other way around. She changed her mind after a friend convinced her to attend an event during an Elvis week last August in Memphis. She talked to many of the fans, especially Europeans, who descend on Graceland each year to commemorate the death of Elvis on August the 16th, 1977. I realized how hungry the fans are for stories about what life during normal days at Graceland, Kirk said. They already know the stories about the drugs, the sex, the life, and on the road. They want to know Elvis was like at Graceland during his private time. That's what this book has highlighted. So the former Letitia Edwards grew up in Dixie community of Obion County, about 8 miles west of Union City. She graduated in Dixie High School in 1960. She dreamed of being a nurse, so I'm skipping through it a bit so we get to the highlights. She was hired at the medical group in Memphis when she worked for 40 years. About 1968, she met Elvis when he came to the clinic for treatment for saddle sores from riding his horses. We treated him after hours and he saw Dr. Nick, Kirk said, referring to Dr. George Nikopoulos. I was in the room assessing Elvis and he was sitting in the corner talking to me with his head down. I walked over, lifted his chin and said, Elvis, if you talk to me, can you look at me? She thought she was in trouble when Dr. Nick called her into the office and said, with a solemn look on his face, asked what she said to Elvis. When she told Dr. Nick, he grinned and said, Elvis liked you. He liked your country ways. She became his regular nurse when Elvis came to the clinic, and that led to a move to Graceland. Elvis said he would put her in the trailer behind Graceland and for me and my family to live in so I could take care of him with Daddy and Grandmother Kirk. I told him I wasn't going to be trailer trash for nobody. So he hired my husband, Tommy Henley, to do security and take care of the grounds and keep his toys running. Elvis had his way of getting what he wanted, and I'm glad I did. The Henley family had just bought a new house and they rented it out and moved into the 3-bedroom trailer behind Graceland's mansion. Letitia and her 2 daughters, which were 8 and 7, and they enjoyed playing with Elvis's daughter, Lisa Marie, who was 4 in 1972. Now that's interesting. Elvis came in and out of the trailer like he was one of our kids, Kirk said. He was just part of the family. His nickname for her was Tashina and Tish for short. All right, so this is where we get Tish Henley. She said Elvis did not have a bad health issue at the time, but he needed attention with weight problems and his GI tract. And his father, who lived at Graceland, had heart issues. So Vernon had heart issues. She said that she tried to monitor Elvis's use of prescription drugs, but he got them from various sources. They came in from everywhere, she said. His access to medication was overwhelming, and you can't catch them all. You can't catch all of them. There were no street drugs, just prescription drugs, but it was a nightmare. It was just sad. Letitia, working at the clinic on August the 16th, 1977, when her husband called and told her to get home quick, she jumped in the car and saw the ambulance on Elvis Presley Boulevard as it raced Elvis to the hospital. She drove through the front gates of Graceland and learned what happened. Elvis was dead, age 42. I was in total disbelief, she said. I never dreamed of something like that would happen. I was worried because Lisa was there. It was horrific. They were horrific days. I still get emotional about it, and the book was very hard to write because that was a very emotional journey. I'll just quickly check some of your messages. Tracy, it was his street after all. So let's have a look. I think the only person Elvis would listen to was his mother. She kept his feet on the floor and said his mother had lost. Yeah. If she was around, Eileen, everything would have been different. I think we all know that as fans. There is a system nowadays on computer that all pharmacies can see what prescriptions you have taken. So you cannot get any prescriptions you are not supposed to have. This is in most states. You need it, don't you? So she said major publishers wanted her story but insisted on using ghostwriters to produce the book. She didn't trust them. So she wrote the story and her sister-in-law typed them. She chose to self-publish in Memphis with Wimmer, a division of Mercury Printing Company. Wimmer specializes in cookbooks but prints various topics. And she did a book signing event on Monday at Marlowe's 4381 Elvis Presley Boulevard. She will attend Elvis's event in Great Yarmouth in England. All right, so there must have been a big event in Great Yarmouth in England. Oh, I'd like to go to that on September the 3rd to the 17th to sell her books. And she signs, if you get the book and she's there, she signs them all. She says Elvis was extremely generous and loved to make people happy. She said he was so intelligent and kind and caring. I was a very blessed country girl. Nice words. Nice words. Tish Henley. Tish Henley. So if I just type her name in, I mean, she really did get to meet the true Elvis, didn't she? Like, that's about as close as you get, isn't it? Being his nurse, I would say. So there's a lot of interviews on here with her on YouTube. And I think I did get a clip of her talking. You'll recognize the girls, guys. It was just a short clip.
Ridiculous. Okay. How was he during those last days? I know there's a lot of rumor, there's a lot of back and forth about that he was very happy, very sad, that he had hope for the future, or that he was, some people have contradicting stories. But what did you see in those last days?
He was not happy with his relationship, and he still had not gotten over the book that really, really harmed him mentally, and that was really, really sad.
Yeah.
But he was quite miserable. Unfortunately, he'd gained a lot of weight, and he had a lot of decisions he had to make, and there were times it was just really, really sad, and sad for me to watch him. He felt like he couldn't find a woman that would make him happy.
Well, just in that short 20-second clip, it says a lot. I'm going to play it and then I'm going to comment on each section.
Ridiculous. Okay. How was he during those last days? I know there's a lot of there's a lot of back and forth about that he was very happy, very sad, that he had hope for the future, or that he was, some people have contradicting stories. But what did you see in those last days?
You see, so one of the things that she just commented on, that he wasn't happy with his relationship. So she must be referring to Ginger Alden. So I think that's the first time I've heard someone say, something about Ginger Alden that was actually there with Elvis. And the fact that she says that he was so sad and that he was still very upset about the Memphis Mafia's tell-all book. And it's sad, isn't it?
He was not happy with his relationship, and he still had not gotten over the book that really, really harmed him mentally.
Yeah, and I've always said this, that he was so, he couldn't believe that book was coming out. He didn't know what to do. He was like, these were friends of his, very, very close friends that he'd spent years and years with. And when I think about that last year, I'm so gutted, all the different things that were going on. So she's just said he wasn't happy with Ginger Alden. She's also saying that he's gutted about the book. We know as fans that the divorce settlement was going on with Priscilla. She was demanding more money, and then you had this situation with the deed of trust and the lien being put on Graceland, the charge on Graceland, and he couldn't afford to pay her. And then you've got this massive situation with his health. That's why she was there. Got a seriously unwell man. And we're all learning about this alpha-1 genetic thing that was passed down from his mother and from his grandparents.
They say it. Yeah. But he was quite miserable, unfortunately. He'd gained a lot of weight, and
And that makes me sad. That makes me sad that she's saying that right near the end he was miserable. But he had a lot to be miserable about. But I think she does end it by saying he was upbeat and looking forward for the coming tour that was going to start the next day. So it's not all bad, guys.
Had a lot of decisions he had to make, and there were times it was just really, really sad, and sad for me to watch him. He felt like he couldn't find a woman that would make him happy.
And even that little comment, he felt like he couldn't find a woman that would make him happy. It's gut-wrenching. For us fans, it's gut-wrenching to hear that. So sad.
Presleys personal doctor from a woman who knew him best. Good evening, I'm Joe Birch.
And I'm Conji Anthony. The death of Dr. George Nikopoulos has brought up new curiosity about his relationship with Memphis's biggest legend and the scandal surrounding those final days.
WMC Action News 5's Janice Broach talks with Elvis's former nurse, who shares the story you haven't heard.
Dr. George Nikopoulos spent a lot of time here at Graceland. He was a medical doctor first, but his life became defined by Elvis and Elvis's troubles.
Dr. Nick I loved him. He was a fine man, and I think he did the best he could. I really do. And I'll go to my grave saying that.
Marion Koch met Dr. George Nicopolis when she worked as a nurse at Baptist Memorial Hospital.
I was the unit supervisor at the time.
And the man known as Dr. Nick sent his patients to her floor. One of those patients was the king himself, Elvis Presley.
I told the guard at the desk, don't ever let anybody in this room unless you check with me first.
Elvis liked Koch so much, he asked her to become his personal nurse at Graceland, which she did the last 2 years of his life. Dr. Nick was his doctor, and they both got caught up in the scandal of Elvis's drug use. She had to testify before a grand jury when Nicopolis was indicted in 1980 for overprescribing drugs to Elvis and other patients. His medical license was permanently revoked by the Tennessee Board of Examiners, but Marion Koch, who soon will be 90, says Dr. Nick got a bad rap.
Dr. Nick did the very best he could for Elvis. And there were many other doctors, not local doctors, but out-of-town doctors.
She says the scandal could have done in a lesser man.
It could have destroyed him totally. But I will say this for him, he kept his head up and pretty much his mouth shut.
Dr. Nick was 88 years old. He died on Wednesday. He will be buried on Saturday at Memorial Park Cemetery at Graceland. Janice Broach, WMC Action News 5.
So she liked him. That's the truth of it. She liked him. And a few other interviews I've watched. It's surprising how many people praise Dr. Nick. It's surprising. And I just wonder why. I wonder what happened behind closed doors with these people where they felt that they trusted him with Elvis, even though all the circumstances that we know about that have come out ever since. So that's it. Anyway, I know it's a completely separate story here, but I did find an article on Colonel Tom Parker, a newspaper clipping article. I thought it was really interesting. And I just thought I might just try and read it. It's not very clear, but it's a question and answer. And it's a very old interview in the newspaper. Oh, I could do actually. I'm going to try and read it first. It's small print. You know I can't read, guys. So it's questions and answer. To Colonel Tom Parker, and he was very rarely interviewed, which is why I found this interesting. And look, just so you see what it looks like to me, it's newspaper clippings. Let's see how we get on with it. You managed Elvis Presley for 22 years. What are your plans now? I made myself a promise when Elvis died that for at least a year I would look after his things, help his father, and best I can, I'm still doing that. We don't have any real plans beyond the current show. If it works, we'll go with it. Charlotte was sort of a test market situation, so I'm guessing he's planned some show here. And I thought it went over really good. 2,000 people showed up. We'll try it again in Atlanta. So I'm guessing Charlotte is a place in America, yeah? We'll let it run for more than one night so the word can get around. And this is a show with taste. Right. So then just get your comments. I found it on Pinterest, April 97. A journalist, Bill Hunt. I took the screenshot. Is this the article that I'm reading now? We're talking about. I'll just show you the next bit. Yeah. So I'll carry on reading. Thanks, but for now, talk a little bit about Elvis. What kind of relationship did you have? Parker, very good. I stayed in the background. Elvis lived his life. I lived my life. Sometimes we wouldn't see each other for several weeks at a time. We had a very good relationship, very special. I didn't tell him what records to do, didn't get involved in his records. He didn't tell me how to promote. He says the Colonel will let him know I'm coming. When did you hook up with him? Parker says, I got with him back around 1955. I knew he was a star already. Anybody with any show business ability could have done the same thing I did. He was a showman by birth. You can teach these things, but he could go on. You can't teach these things. The things he could do on stage, you can't teach. This is very true. And I've seen a couple of interviews on YouTube, and he's more or less saying this in his interviews, isn't he? Especially the one where he's very elderly. I think I played this a few days ago. How did you get with him? I had tours out with several different country artists. I started booking Elvis through his manager, who was a nice guy, but who couldn't get out of town as much and whatnot. Elvis was underage, he was a teenager. Then his father and mother talked to me. It's kind of how things evolved. But his parents asked you to handle his career. That's right, he says. So I'm just doing live. Here he comes, the little monkey doing his wiggle. Right, what are you looking for?
A charger.
Charger? Right, there's one next to my bed. You don't sound as if you take much credit for Elvis's success. I will say this, I have never known Colonel Tom Parker to say a bad thing about Elvis. Never, not even once. I know we have got strong opinions on Colonel Tom Parker. I've never known him to say anything bad. Right, you don't sound as if you take much credit for Elvis's success. Parker says, I can't give my credit. Yeah? Right, let's have a look. Right, let's have a look. Come here then. All right, 1 second. Let me just get it for you. But then you take it upstairs, yeah? I thought you were upstairs with Mummy. Where are you? Right, so you want to plug your phone in, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, here we go. And you plug this in, and then you do have to take it upstairs, yeah? I've nearly finished now, anyway. There you go. Take it upstairs, and it'll come on. No, you have to wait a few minutes.
It's wet, so
Yeah.
I don't wanna...
Oh, well done. I'm coming up in a minute. Welcome to my home, guys. This is my world, my kitchen, and my tiny little kid. Tino is 4 years old. He doesn't care that I'm doing a live stream. It completely means nothing to him. Right, let me just read the rest of that. So you don't sound as if you take much credit for Elvis's success. I can't give myself credit. I'm just a manager by instinct. I never went to school to learn how to be a manager. I just tried to call attention to a great talent. I did it, but anybody else knows about show business could do the same thing. He's basically saying that anyone could have made Elvis famous because of his natural talent. Everybody knows me, though. It was always Elvis and the Colonel. I was with Elvis for 22 years and don't stay with one star for 22 years unless you do things right. Fair comment. I'm just going to shut the door a minute because you can hear the dryer. The reason I liked that short clip is because I thought it was. Look, there's another bit here. Let's have a look. What were you trying to do there, Parker? Parker says that was when we were making movies. You can't make movies and go on tour at the same time. It was simple arithmetic. The dollars were there in the movie. So he basically says, because obviously we've always wondered why Elvis spent all of the 60s making these films. And Parker breaks it down very simply. He says there was more money in the films. So Elvis stopped making music I'm on about the normal, like the rock and roll type music, to do the cheesy songs that came out of the movies because there was more money in it, which is a shame, guys. Don't you think? Don't you think that's a shame? But didn't it make a bigger deal when he did start touring again? Maybe it did, but you can never know these things in advance. To me, it always gets in there with a pitch, and whatever happens, that way is supposed to be. You've got to believe in something. So what he's saying, that in hindsight, maybe he should have gone on tours. Maybe he would have made more money on tours. But at the time, they decided the movies was the way to go, which I think was a mistake. But what about the other key decisions in Elvis's career? What do you think they were? Parker, I think the single best decision in Elvis's career was to not overexpose him on TV. He did only 3 specials in 20 years. Unless you got a show with a plot like Gunsmoke or Bonanza or something, you can't get overexposed real quick. It was an important thing that Elvis was good at and got the right opportunities that came along. So he feels that not overexposing Elvis gave Elvis better opportunities. Do you agree with that? And then it says, what about you? You haven't done too many interviews yourself. You've been pretty available here in Charlotte. Did you make a conscious decision to step to the foreground? And Parker says, no, not at all. And then he says, they always got to shake hands and say hello when we went to a concert. But it's dangerous for a manager to step too much to the forefront. Managers get to thinking that they are stars, and that's a bad situation. He has a point. I shied away from interviews for a long time, but I felt that this was distinctly different situation. I felt that the people that did come to the show deserved a chance to talk to me, and if they desired, and I did talk to them, and I autographed anything they wanted me to autograph. By the way, how did you get to be the Colonel? And then so this is an interesting question. How did he get to be the Colonel? And he says, Governor Frank Clements of Tennessee made me a Tennessee Colonel and Governor George Wallace from Alabama. It was an honorary thing, and I was a buck private. So that's the first time I've heard the Colonel Tom Parker in an interview saying how he was given the title of Colonel. So I think some of you know this anyway, but so basically Governor Frank Clements of Tennessee made him a Tennessee Colonel and Governor for Alabama. It was an honorary thing. And he said, so I find that interesting. So when I stumbled on that, I thought I'm going to read it to you guys. Right, let's read some of these messages. Sorry, I was sidetracked by trying to read that. So where are we? Okay, so I'm just going to go back, get some of your messages. You lot have been chatting away, haven't you? Well, I've been reading. Right, let's do. Right. So Teresa, it was Priscilla, all the guys, Parker, that killed Elvis for all the money. Thanks, Teresa. I wish I could attach it in here. So obviously you found something. I'm not on Facebook. I wonder if I can have an email. You're welcome to have my email. So I type it. I'm not sure what you've got, Tracy. But anyone's welcome to email me at any time. Let's have a look. Where's the at? So I can't find the at. Let's just pretend that's an at. Right, so it's Louis McCreedy's at yahoo.co.uk. And you can, that's my Facebook name as well. I'm on Instagram as well, and I'm on Twitter. Right, let's have a look. Where are we? It was Priscilla. All the guys. Right. Okay. Right. By the way, Colonel did meddle with Elvis's recordings, trying to get his voice more in the foreground. Elvis didn't like it. Yeah, I think the bit I saw was that he kept adding echo. Is that right? It was too much echo, and Elvis didn't like it. Is that right, Nadia? Grumpy Flyer. Hi, Grumpy Flyer. Thanks for joining us. If you look at toxicology reports, his prescribed medications were all within therapeutic range. Not sure what was known about the addictive effects of the interactions at the time. We went through this yesterday, and it's very clear that Elvis was seriously unwell in his late 30s and early 40s, and he seriously needed all his medications. Yes, he probably abused the uppers and downers and the painkillers, but he was so unwell, guys. He needed it. He needed it. I'm gutted how much pain Elvis was going through secretly, privately. He was a proud man. He didn't want everyone to know that he was so unwell. Right. By the way, Colonel did meddle with Elvis's record. Oh no, sorry. Right. Yeah. I'm not sure what article you guys are talking about. So you're saying Dr. Nick said Ginger had a boyfriend? I haven't seen that. I've always assumed that she was faithful, so I'd need proof for that, guys. Yvette Dale. Hi, Yvette. Is that a new name, Yvette? Welcome to our little family, Yvette. So we've got Nadia. Tell more, Teresa. When was G supposed to have a boyfriend? Well, with Elvis. So let's have a look. Parker would not let Elvis go around the world. That's so true, Teresa. And there's many reasons for that, isn't there? He wasn't a proper citizen, wasn't he? And there's a possibility, and it's rumored, that he was wanted for murder many, many years ago. So, right. I didn't know that Rora, I'm finishing in a few minutes, so don't come in here yet, because he'll just jump all over me like a monkey. Right, codeine from the dentist, I think. Then Teresa, I didn't know that I always learn something new from all of you in the chat. We do, don't we, Stacey? We keep learning all these facts from each other. So I'm going to have to just bring it to the end of the messages and let the guys come in and do what they want to do. But I will just quickly try and get through these messages. Parker's just focused on money and not humanity. We could talk all day about Colonel Tom Parker. That is I might do a Colonel Tom Parker live tomorrow because it's such a big subject. I have a lot of views on Colonel Tom Parker. Right. Who was the pharmacist? Good question, Nadia. So we've got Tracy. He got the codeine prescriptions from the visit to the dentist the day before, and he was allergic to codeine. I've seen that in a few interviews. So I'll check that. When I go upstairs, I'll check that email. Thanks, guys. I break out in hives, then it gets worse. My doctor told me that before I break out, an itch outside my insides are incredibly inflamed. Right, Stacey, have I missed part of this conversation? But Stacey, my advice, if you're getting inflammation, is to cut down the carbs and the sugar. Carbs and sugar cause inflammation. And don't use any of the fake oils like seed oils or vegetable oils or margarine. Causes inflammation. And the other thing that causes inflammation are cereals. Anything wheat-based, like pasta, Even rice and potato, it will inflame you. And the reason I know is because I've had it. I had a very bad case of ulcerative colitis and it was getting rid of all these foods and increasing my meat and egg intake and fish, meat, egg and fish, that cured me. Bread is a big no-no. Pizza, a big no-no. Right, I pray that we will all get the missing pieces from the sealed autopsy. Yeah, in 3 years' time, guys, we get the actual autopsy. But Dr. Nick does talk about the autopsy. I found a clip of it because he was there when they did the autopsy. So he actually knows the details of that autopsy. I'll try and find that for you guys. Let's have a look. Parker Stifle, else with there. Yeah, that Tracy says it. He had an allergy to codeine. Yeah, we know that he went to the dentist. Eileen, he went to the dentist the night before. I personally think there's things that we're not being told about the night before. I don't think we know the whole story. That's just my opinion, guys. Right, I'm going to have to go then because I think that they want to come down and use this room. So we've been on for an hour. It's gone like that for me. It's gone so quick, guys. Thanks for this chat. I just wanted to briefly talk about Dr. Nick, the 2 nurses. Because I found that right up with Colonel Tom Parker, I did want to mention that. So I'll be back tomorrow morning around 7 a.m. UK time. And I do think tomorrow we're going to have a little dig and talk about Colonel Tom Parker. And let's go that route tomorrow. So I'm going to start researching all that stuff. Now, remember, guys, we're here to defend Elvis, to search for the truth. We're trying to find out and disagree with the stuff that people are saying about Elvis. Because I don't think Elvis was a drug addict. I think he needed a lot of medication. I think he did abuse some of the meds, like the downers and uppers, for many reasons. So he could boost his energy when he was touring, so that he could sedate himself when he was trying to relax after a concert. He had insomnia, seriously bad insomnia. And then we've got the extreme pain for constipation and all the rest of the issues within his body and his twisted colon. So he did seriously need his pain medications. So yes, Elvis was taking a lot of pills, but he needed them. Elvis needed them. And this is what we have to get out there to the world. We have to say to the world, look, Elvis needed this medication. He was not a drug addict. But I'm not going to whitewash Elvis. He got carried away and he did abuse them sometimes. It's the truth, guys. And there were some serious side effects because of it. But Elvis was born very unwell. He had illnesses from a child, and he tried to hide these illnesses through his life. And it killed his mum, it killed his grandparents, it killed his mother's brothers. So it's a complex situation. We have to look up the Alpha 1 genetic situation as well, and the fact that Elvis's grandparents were first cousins. It's all part of the mix. But the public don't know this. And we are here to find the facts and get the truth out and do the best we can to stand up for Elvis. Okay, guys. Thanks, guys. All the best. It's been great. Thanks a lot for joining me. Thank you to every single one of you. And if you're watching this show, please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell, because then when we go live, we can all suddenly come together. If you want to be a member, just click on the join button. And if you want to buy me a coffee, guys. I love coffee. Take care. All the best.